And, I thought it was so cool when I read that you worked with Marty Balin. I was like,
wow.
I love him. I actually got to speak with him just before he had passed. And so,
wow.
yeah, so when I got to reading that you worked with him on Rock Justice, a rock opera, you were, I think, 19 at the time. How, what did you say? Were you saying to yourself, were you kind of in a moment like, oh my gosh, this guy's from Jefferson Starship, Airplane, all of them, like, wow.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, there was a recognition that Marty has achieved a lot and had a lot to offer and say, and he was a really great guy. He really was, and he was a fun guy, and he was very pure in his musical vision, and that's one thing I loved about him. He was just authentic. So yeah, working with Marty was great. I mean, again, it wasn't like I was constantly going around thinking, "Oh my God, this is Marty Balin." But at the same time, I certainly recognized and appreciated everything he'd done, and welcomed his input at every level.
Yeah. Now, did he give you any, advice back then that you still remember today?
That's a good question. Let me think. I'm sure he did. You know what I remember? I remember being in the studio doing background vocals, and I remember we were doing something, and I because I'm kind of picky. I'm sort of a little bit over the top in that way. That's probably why I've become a producer. But I remember I pointed something out, and Marty was like, "Do you really think anybody's going to hear that when we do like 10 tracks of this?"
Oh my God.
And I remember thinking, "Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, I like to do it, so that everybody sounds really good. And if it's a little rough, I'd prefer to do it again.
Right.
But if you really love it, that's okay." I think he kind of helped me become less of a perfectionist and more of a vibe person, because he was totally a vibe person, and that's so important. So I would say if there's something he taught me, it was that. Just the vibe is always more important.
And that's so cool, because you got that tidbit when you were young. You were just starting, right?
Yeah, I was a kid.
So you got to grab that from somebody like Marty Balin, who had, been around, and that is, because I'm telling you, when I read that, I said, oh my gosh, I love Marty. I love him. He was so nice. But I thought it also came around when you worked with Mickey Thomas later on Starship's album, Loveless Fascination, and it was engineered and produced at your studio.
And what's really funny about that is the opening song on that Starship record.
Yeah.
It's called It's Not the Same as Love. Was a song, that chorus I wrote when I was working with Marty in the late 70s.
Stop
and it's so funny, because he said to me, well, write me a song. So I started working on that, and I played him that chorus, and he goes, I love it, finish it up. So I did, but by then he had kind of moved on to other things.
Wow.
I revisited the song when I started working with Mickey, because I remembered that chorus. I just remember thinking that sounded so Starship-y to me, and that I knew Marty loved it. So I played it for Mickey, and he was like, oh, I love it. So it was such a great completion situation, full circle. Having that song be born in the late 70s with Marty and then finished with Mickey in 2012, pretty cool.
Gosh, oh my God, it's crazy. I can't believe that. Wow. I love that. I love that story.